Okay, hello everyone and welcome back to World of Tanks Blitz. We're going to be doing a review here of the Cruiser 2. It is a very nice tier 3 British light tank, and one of the many cruiser tanks that we happen to have in Blitz. In fact, we have all the cruisers from 1 to 4. There's the Cruiser 1, Cruiser 2, Cruiser 3 and Cruiser 4. So there we go, that's all very nice. And the Cruiser 2 is probably one of the funnest of them. Perhaps even more so than the Cruiser 4 here with the 40mm Bofors. And that's down to the gun, because the actual chassis isn't actually that great. 9% protection, 17% firepower, 2% shot effectiveness and 37% manoeuvrability. That is using the supposedly top gun. So starting off 390 HP, which is less than the Cruiser 4, sorry. It's less than the BT7 artillery. Let's just check out the BTSV, which has got 410, and just the M3 Light, which has got 395. So yeah, it's got the least amount of health out of most of the tier 3s, if not all of them, which is a bit of a problem due to the armour, which is 30 frontal hull, 22 sides, 12 rear, 30 frontal turret, 26 sides, and 30 rear. So it's not quite as badly armoured as the Cruiser, which as you can see has got 30, 14, 14, 30, 12 and 14. It's not quite as bad as that. It is slightly more survivable, I guess, due to the thicker side and rear armour of the turret and the side armour of the hull. But overall, yeah, you can bounce a couple of shots, most certainly. However, don't rely on it to save you. Things will go straight through because at tier 2, 30mm of armour is fairly decent. At tier 3, not so much. Unfortunately, which means that this thing has got pretty weak survivability due to the thinness of armour, and also due to the thinness of armour and the small amount of hit points. It also is not really that manoeuvrable. Well, I say that, it is. It's just not quite as manoeuvrable as, say, the Cruiser, which has got 67% manoeuvrability. Whereas this thing's only got 37. That's due to it being 14 tons, but only having a 150 horsepower engine. That does go up, obviously, with the standard fuel, up 4.5, but the base engine is 150 horsepower, which means that it has a theoretical speed limit of 40 kilometers per hour, but it takes a long time to get that because it's 15 tons with only a 150 horsepower engine. For example, the Cruiser weighs 15 tons, so it weighs, I think, is that less? 15 tons, this 14 there. Slightly more, it weighs slightly more, but it has got an almost 400 horsepower engine, which means that this thing bombs around like nobody's business. This thing is rather more slow. 40 kilometers per hour, yeah, you're never really going to see that. It's got decent reverse, however, 43.67 degrees per second, and it's got a 51 degrees per second turret reverse, and those are decent numbers. Those are very good numbers. That's not that bad. However, yeah, power to weight, terrible. Reverse speed, also pretty atrocious. And yeah, overall, it's not really that manoeuvrable. And that is a shame, due to how fun this thing is when we go over the gun. But yeah, there it is, the top engine, the AEC Type 179, 20% chance of fire and impact. There's the stock engine, which has got only 120 horsepower, so it gains 30 horsepower, but still that's not great. There's the top turret, the Cruiser Mark II. The turret A10E1 has slightly less view range, but other than that it's identical. And now we come to the guns. So you've got a good selection of guns, really, because you've got the stock 2-pounder, which is a very respectable gun at tier 3. It's got a 19.07 rate of fire, 64 average pen with AP, 121 with APCR, and 12 with HE, so yeah, terrible HE pen, but it's tier 3, it's a 40mm gun, what do you expect? Average damage is also less, only 45, 40 with APCR, and 60 with HE, so yeah, pretty terrible. However, far better dispersion, 0.31, which is that's like laser-like accuracy. That's really good, and also a really good aim time, 3.7 seconds, which makes it a very good sniping gun if you wanted to play this thing as a sniper. Alternatively, it makes a very good pop out of cover for a peekaboo sort of tank. And then you've got the 40mm pom-pom, which we are basically, well, all familiar with. This thing is a lot more like the 40mm pom-pom on the PC version. It's got 4 shells in the magazine, 0.5 seconds between each shell, and it's got a 3.15 total magazine reload time, which is not that bad. That's actually a very decent reload time. It has got less penetration of 49 average pen, but then that is mostly alright for tier 3. Tier 4 does struggle, unfortunately, with that kind of penetration. But it has got 71 with a PCR, 12 with HE. Still, it's a 40mm gun, so HE pen doesn't change, nor does the average damage. The accuracy, however, goes, well, a lot worse. 0.398 accuracy, almost 0.4, which is really horribly inaccurate. The aim time, however, pretty decent, 4.2 seconds, not that bad. And yeah, this is also a rather respectable gun. It has good burst damage. You know, because you're doing about 180 average damage, and if you reload in 3.15 seconds, yeah, that's about 5 seconds, and you've done 180 damage, and then you're ready to fire off another 180 again. So yeah, not too bad. But then we come to the gun which most everybody is going to be mounting on this tank, which is the 3.7-inch howitzer. It's a 94mm howitzer, mounted at tier 3. It's crazy. 3.51 rate of fire, rounds per minute. The average penetration is only 25 with HE and 110 with heat, but the average damage is 280 with HE, 190 with heat. Terrible dispersion, 0.5 dispersion, which is really horribly inaccurate, and a really long aim time, 6.5 seconds of aim time, which is yeah, not that great at all. It's a bit like a tier 3 KV2, you could say. Because it mounts a really large derp gun, which is capable of dealing half damage to mostly everything that it meets. If it penetrates mediums, other lightly armoured targets, yep, they're going to get absolutely devoured by this thing. And yeah, this is the gun which I've chosen to mount. As you can quite clearly see, this is what it looks like, a giant sodding gun on top of this thing. Bigger than any other gun, mounted at tier 3. The next biggest you've got is the 76. On the SU, or indeed a 105 actually is going to be the biggest gun mounted on a tank at tier 3, namely on the T82. But yeah, for a gun mounted not on a tank destroyer, that's a very large gun, and it's very fun to play around with, just derping things in the face with it. It does carry 30 rounds of ammunition, but you're never going to fire off all 30 rounds, so take as much heat and HE as you want. For the proper seal clubbing, you can go with the heat, but well, HE for doing like 300 damage to some of the lightly armoured targets is very satisfying as well. For provisions, you've of course got your standard fuel for 3% engine power and turret traverse, then you've got black tea for the 3% crew mastery. Then you've got the protective kit, 15% protection and crew from injuries, 10% speed and module repair, 20% fire protection, and 10% ammo and fuel tank durability, which you can go ahead mount if you want for the full seal clubbing experience. Although there are better tanks for steel clubbing at tier 3, to be honest. SU-76i. Then you've got your consumables, repair, first aid, fire extinguisher. Then you've got the engine power boost, 20% to engine power for 15 seconds. Then you've got adrenaline, 20% to load speed, and 10% chance of damaging enemy vehicle modules for 15 seconds. Then you've got the multi-purpose restoration pack, which is those 3 things rolled into one. And that is mostly everything that you've got here. But now we come on to the equipment. So, I would say improve vents. Calibrated shells does look like a nice thing to have, because you get 10% extra pen for all heat and HE shells, which does help, but not quite enough. If it went up to 30, so if it went up by 5mm of penetration, up to 30mm of penetration, that would really benefit for getting through, for example, other cruisers, because unfortunately you can't pen and do full damage with HE to other cruisers, because of course 30mm frontal armour, which is a shame. I mean, it's useful for getting through BT7 artilleries either way, but yeah, it's just unfortunate that, because 30 is a good benchmark, because lots of tanks have got 30mm of armour at the most at tier 2 and 3, so having 30mm of pen would be greatly beneficial, but unfortunately it's only 25. Goes up to 28, still not quite enough. I mean, if you're lucky you can get 31 pen, so of course slightly more penetration will get you more likely to get through those 30mm plates, but honestly, improved vents, yes, is what you'll want really for the improved traverse, the rate of fire, the accuracy, the aim time. All these things are being benefited by it. Then I would say definitely coated optics, because this thing is a really good frontline derper. It's just really fun to go around and derp HE at things. So yeah, I would say coated optics rather than a camonette, because then really it's a choice between these two, because again they are both good. So really it's a toss-up. I would say the ammo rack and fuel tank durability is going to be more useful, just due to the fact that you won't have your ammo rack damaged as much, and your fuel tanks you won't be set on fire as much. I mean, this is nice for the engine damage, but I mean, still, I think this is definitely going to be better for the improved modules. Then definitely in the enhanced gun lane drive. Supercharge would be nice for the extra shell velocity. Unfortunately, the aim time is killer on this thing. So getting it down to 5.9 seconds, while still not great, it's still very sluggish. It's still better than 6 point whatever it was, 6.5 or something aim time. So definitely enhanced gun lane drive. Then definitely coated improved assembly to get you up to 415 HP. Just to get you more in line with the par for other tier 3 lights. Enhanced armor is going to be useless with 30mm at most, so yeah, don't bother with that. Then definitely engine accelerator to increase your engine power to get up to your top speed quicker. It also boosts your traverse speed, but honestly the acceleration is going to be far more useful in my opinion. So yeah, then definitely refined gun, get it down to 0.45 dispersion, while still absolutely terrible dispersion. It's not as bad as 0.5, so 0.45 is better, so I would say definitely the refined gun. Then your choice between those two, quite honestly. Perhaps toolbox, but again, it's a choice really, your choice, and then your choice of whatever the hell those two things are. So overall, it's a really fun tank. It's a really fun tier 3 light tank. It's got a really good derp gun, and it's just really fun to roll around, derp things. Some things you'll pen, some things you won't. It's just a choice. It's just whether or not you're lucky enough to come across, for example, an FCM 36 pack 40 or some of the lightly armoured tier 2 tank destroyers to do loads of HE damage to, and it's just a really fun gun to play around with. Although there is a good gun selection for this thing, the stock gun is still a very respectable gun. You will most likely see some people rolling around with the 2-pounder still installed, because why fix something that isn't broken? But yeah, overall, really fun tank. Also, decent gun depression, I think. Oh, sorry, no, that's the other one. Sorry, terrible gun depression is what I meant to say, because it has this box here for some reason, and this box stops any sort of gun depression over like 3 or 4 degrees. No, maybe less than that, 2 maybe. So yeah, terrible hill poker, and it will kill you. I can tell you that much. Terrible gun depression. And so that is just something to note on the front at least. Although, no, that's mounted to the turret. That is mounted to the turret. You will not get very good gun depression, which is annoying, but still. Anyway, that is the Cruiser 2. Well, thank you for watching, and goodbye.